So how are you?
I'm very, very excited. But tomorrow, it's going to take me 37 hours to get to Adelaide. I have a 10-hour layover in Sydney, and I'm taking so many planes, and I'm going to be like, ugh. It's going to be a very 37 hours.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I've done that before, going to Spain from Australia. It was crazy.
Right. And I don't know what you do at 10 hour at the Sydney airport, but I'll find out.
Yeah, I know. You're allowed to leave the airport? Do you know?
10 hours, I might check in and leave and come back if I
Yeah,
can.
yeah, you should be able
Um,
to.
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, that'll be already 24 hours into it. So I just might be delirious and find a place to sleep. I
Yeah.
have no idea. Or maybe not sleep so I don't get the jet lag. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know anything that's going on. I just know I'm flying there and somebody's gonna and hopefully Danny's gonna show me where to go on stage, and then I'm just gonna get on stage in Australia for the very first time. And I have no idea what to expect, but I know that I'm really excited and very flattered that I get to go to Australia and tell some stories.
Oh yeah, I mean it's going to be great. I mean you got the four, so Adelaide, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. Now notice you got a
Yes.
little bit of a gap in between Brisbane and Melbourne. So do you plan on doing some sightseeing?
Of course, I plan on doing as much sightseeing in all four areas as I can. In Brisbane, is it Brisbane or Brisbane?
Brisbane.
Brisbane. Okay, Brisbane. I don't want to say it wrong, get everybody mad at me already.
Yeah.
In Brisbane, I'm definitely going to the Koala Bear Sanctuary.
Oh yeah.
I want to go find some good food, find some good coffee. I've heard that I'm supposed to go to the Cherry Bar. I think is that Melbourne.
Oh yeah, Cherry Bay, yeah, in Melbourne. Yeah, I'm in
Okay,
Melbourne as well.
I don't know. When people see me at the shows, please tell me places to go or reach out to me on Facebook.
Yeah.
My whole life, or not lately, I really take a lot of notes from what people send me. I've done these big cross country motorcycle rides, and people tell me where to eat or where to stay, and I listen to people. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's horrible. But in Australia, I've never been there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want to see Bondi Beach, and of course, I'm coming in the winter,
Yeah.
but I just want to see all of it. I've never been there, and I'm just excited to take it all in.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're all in one place. We had an earthquake here like yesterday, last night. But only
A, a
4.7.
bad one?
No, no. Just felt the house like shake. It was the second time in probably 3 years I've ever had an earthquake here in Melbourne. And
Okay, I left California because of the earthquakes. I've lived in North Carolina for 7 years, and we don't have earthquakes in North Carolina.
hmm,
So maybe I'll feel like I'm back home in LA if there's
yeah,
a earthquake.
yeah. I mean, it was only 4.7, so it was only like a just a house shaker, but still, made all the news and was everywhere.
Great, 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 great. Thank you for giving me something to already look forward to.
No, I'm sure you're going to love it. Besides that,
Oh, I know I am.
yeah. So just a bit about the show. So the one foot in the gutter. Um, so I know, by doing some research, you're telling some stories. You're doing some videos and photos as well. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
The show, every single word was written by me. It's edited by me. It's produced by me. It's sort of like if you were going to go do a show for your friends in the neighborhood by opening up your garage door and just putting on a play. It's
Yeah.
sort of like that. I'm just kind of bringing my friends in. And Australia, in America, these shows are 2.5 hours long, and they go up and down with some really crazy stuff. And in Australia, we're going to be doing this cat house after party. So I've got to the whole show down like in half. So I'm going to do two 45-minute sets and just put in all the juicy stuff. I talk about, growing up in Hollywood. I talk about watching my friends become the biggest rock stars in the world. I talk about creating the notorious Cat House Rock and Roll Club. Talk about all the bad and good stuff that happened there. Talk about Headbangers Ball. As much as I can cram into the time that I have up there, I think the show is. I'm so happy with the reviews that the show has been getting. It's been getting incredible reviews. I could never expect the response that I've gotten. And at this stage of my career, and I'm old, it is the thing that I'm most proud of anything else. And even the idea of going to Australia that never got the Headbangers Ball and getting to talk to people, it's just like my mind's blown that I get to do this. It's like, come on, when am I going to wake up? This is way too cool.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I was in US in 1990. I was over there with my band called Eclipse, and we got to hang out and watch the Headbangers Ball. See you guys doing all the interviews. Actually, I've got to quickly show you my band here. This is our
Wow.
this is me here.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Did you do well in the States or just sort of over there?
No, just like 2 weeks we did in the States because we mainly in like Michigan, Detroit, and we did like a few of the nightclubs there. I think it was called Roxanne's. It was called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know it.
No. But yeah, we just like the high schools and a state prison over there, and it was really cool.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
But yeah, so in our downtime we used to hang out and watch Headbangers Ball, and you and then we got first introduced to Beavis and Butthead. And
Yes. It was the thing I think that I even talk about briefly in my show is I didn't realize at the time that I had the greatest job in the world. And truly, hosting Headbangers Ball is the greatest job in the world. All I get to do is fly all over the world and interview the biggest rock bands ever.
Yeah.
And get a little bit of celebrity from that. I mean, it was pretty cool. And it was, to know, and I don't know how many people ever saw any parts of Headbangers Ball in Australia, but in America, no matter what I do, I've done television and radio, and I've done so many things, but I'll always be known as the host of Headbangers Ball. And that's okay. And that show, I stopped doing that in 95, but everybody knows me from that show. And for a while, it was kind of like, oh, come on, don't you know I do this show now, I do that show. And now when I hear people say they grew up watching Headbangers Ball, I realize that show was an important part of their life.
Yeah.
And to just kind of brush it off is discounting what they say. And just like, so now when people talk about the Headbangers Ball, I'm very flattered and I like talking about the show.
Yeah. Oh, it was a great show. I mean, going back, looking at some of the episodes, on YouTube, like a lot of it's on there now. But yeah, some of the interviews you did, and like you said, flying around the world to do these interviews, and bowling alleys and swimming pools and all over the place.
Yeah, those are two of the best, most fun episodes that you mentioned, like Chris Cornell and Alice in Chains, and I talk about some of that stuff in my show and have clips.
Okay, yeah. That's why I didn't want to give too much away from the show, but watching some of the clips, I've seen you some other interviews as well, where you spoke about with the David Bowie and Axl.
Talk about it in the show.
Yeah.
But everybody, a lot of people have heard that story, but they haven't heard exactly what went down and what really started it. But I know because it was at my club and I was there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what really happened that day. And there's a couple of other stories that are sort of rock and roll legends that people don't know started because of something that happened at the Cat House right next to me.
Yeah.
So those are pretty fun stories too.
So is there any other artists that you can tell us about without giving the stories away that might be mentioned in the stories?
Nope. I won't tell you.
No.
Obviously there's a lot of Guns N' Roses stories because Guns N' Roses were so important in my career. And I don't know if I would be where I am if it wasn't for Axl. So they're in it a lot. Of course, there's some good and bad stories about Motley Crue. A surprising story about John 5. There's quite a few stories, and I think what I might do in Australia is even open up to Q&A, which I don't do. The one thing I'm going to do is, on all these shows that I've been doing across America, we have these like VIPs where people, they come early to the show, they hang out with me, take a picture, I sign autographs, and they can ask me something if they want to. But in Australia, I'm not going to do that because after my show, I'm just going to walk out there and meet anybody that wants to talk to you. If you want to talk to me and take a picture or sign something, just come up and say, I'm not going to make you pay for it. So I'm going to be doing that at every show. And that would be, if you want to just talk to me, please come up and talk to me. I look forward to it.
That's great. That's really good. Yeah, because my brother had a chance in 1988. He went over to the States and he went to the Cat House then. And
he did?
Yeah. He, like you said, it was just amazing. So
1988 was one of the great years. 88, 87 to 89 were the best years. Did a band play that night or no?
I don't think so. No, pretty sure he said there was
Yeah.
just, yeah.
A lot of times what people don't realize is that the Cat House started as a rock and roll dance club, DJing, playing like just rock.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to recreate, at all these shows in Australia. After I finish my show, we're going to play rock and roll and get to hang out, and hopefully there'll be people there to hang out with me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there will be. Yeah. Now the other one I did see when I was in the States in 1990, we went and saw Kiss, Faster Pussycat, and Slaughter on the same bill. So I know you're good friends with Faster Pussycat.
I talked to Tammy. Tammy's my best friend.
Yeah.
I don't think a week goes by that I don't talk to Tammy. I mean, I asked him about advice for Australia. I asked him, like, what happens when you have a show and you've only sold like 10 tickets? What do you do? He said, you go out there and you kick ass for those 10 people. I'm like, okay, because everybody's gone through that. And I'm basically a new band without a record. Nobody knows what my show is going to be.
Yeah.
So I asked him about a lot of different questions. And we talk about just regular stuff. We don't even talk about music. I love Tammy, and we talk all the time still.
Yeah, that's great. Now, going back to the Cat House. Now, did you know about the Cat House in Melbourne that opened up?
When was that?
1990.
No, if I did, I would have gave him a cease and desist.
Oh, really? Yeah. It was
I had
in,
nothing. I didn't know about that.
it was a place in, it's called the Palace in St Kilda, but they opened up at night called the Cat House, which I used to go to, and a lot of other people did too. But yeah, I wasn't sure if you knew about it.
No, I know that they did it in Scotland, and they called it the Cat House and used my logo, and even said the best cat house in town, which was taken after Faster Pussycat's song. And it became this big rock and roll club in Scotland. And I talked to attorneys about doing a cease and desist, and that's before I owned all the worldwide trademarks. And it would have cost me so much money. And they still use that club, is still open today. It would have been nice if they at least gave me a nod, and said, yeah, we opened up the Cat House. But now if anything opens the Cat House or anybody uses the logo on anything, because I own the apparel rights. If I have a Cat House shirt, it's created by me. And if somebody copies it, I pay attorneys to take them down, because I want the brand to stay true to what it is. Not because I'm greedy and I want all the money, which I do, but the reason is I want this brand to stay cool. I don't want it to be like, I don't know if people bought Ed Hardy shirts, but they were a real big trend in America. Now nobody would wear one. Yeah. I don't want Cat House to become that same way.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, because on Facebook, over the years, I've been in a group called, the Cat House at the Palace, where a lot of people used to go to the Cat House. It's like a big group and everyone talks. It's really good. Good community.
Well, good. Tell them to come to my show.
I did. I put it on
the real Cat House.
I put it on the Facebook site last night. I said, I'm interviewing you because I know a lot of people, know you from that. And I asked, has anyone got any questions? So I've got a few questions here from some of the people. If that's okay. All right.
And you know what? I'm mad about it that somebody opened up something called the Cat House, because I am the one that came up with the name. Yeah. But on the same token, you have to be flattered.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, the honest truth, the only reason that me and Tammy opened up the Cat House was to get free drinks and meet strippers. I mean, it sounds really cheesy these days, but remember, I'm like 21, and that was why we opened the club. So to know that somebody did something in Australia, it upsets me, because it's my brand, and I wish they would have asked me about it first. But it's still flattering. But I hope they don't do it again.
No, I don't think so. It would be good, but so some of these questions you don't have to answer. Just say pass, and we'll edit it out. So one of the guys from the Facebook page, Geordie, he said, which band had the hottest groupies?
I remember one New Year's Eve, Tammy and I said, let's go see Poison, because Poison's playing and they have the hottest girls. So I remember Tammy saying, let's go see Poison. The only reason we went was because they had the hottest girls. But Poison had good-looking girls. Obviously, Motley Crue did. Tammy always pulled. Girls love Tammy. They still do. I don't know why, but he always. But I would say probably back in the day, Guns N' Roses did too. But I think Motley Crue and Poison probably.
Yep. No, good. Now, you already answered my other question. Mark Turner asked, did you know about the Palace in St Kilda, which you didn't know about?
No.
Yeah. Now, this is one from Adriano Mann. He said, did you ever hook up with any of the female artists from the female bands?
No.
Nope. Okay.
No. I don't think so. Like who? I know I didn't. I don't think I did.
No.
I hate to sound like I don't remember, but I don't think I ever hooked up with any of the girl bands because that would just be weird. But I never did, I don't think.
Yep. Now, this next one I don't really know about. This Vic Nicholas said, have you ever been tempted to punch Adam Curry in the mouth?
No.
No.
No, Adam Curry was the VJ that had my job, and I mean, basically, I took his job. I took his job, and I became the host of Headbangers Ball. And Adam was, we didn't have any contact with him, and he was a different host than I was. Yeah, I was a guy that was in the scene, and he really wasn't. He admits that. So I was never mad at Adam Curry at all. Never. I never really spoke with him. So there was a lot of people that I had the urge to punch in the mouth, and sometimes I did, which got me in trouble. But not Curry, no.
Yeah. And then the last one from these guys was, what was your thoughts about, because you interviewed Kurt Cobain, and then they ended up being like the ones that sort of like took the medal away, but didn't. Yeah.
I talk about that in my show. And I show a lot of the Nirvana on Headbangers Ball because some people don't know it. And I talk about that. For people to say that Nirvana killed heavy metal, when someone says that, you do realize that you saying that means that you're weaker than them. That if something is strong and powerful like metal is, but these guys from Seattle kill you, that means that they're stronger than you are. Because it wasn't played on the radio. Who cares? The bands that I listened to back then weren't played on the radio. Some of the bands that I listen to now, you're not playing on the radio. That doesn't make them any worse. Metal still is popular. And there's a lot of people that are just grumpy because the 80s, 90s metal isn't as big as it was. So they got to blame it on something. Look, the reason that people that the 80s and 90s concerts aren't as big as they used to be is because some of you stopped going to the shows.
Yeah.
80s and 90s concert would be just, and look at some of the bands. I mean, everybody says, well, look at, Winger. People don't go to see Winger that much anymore. Yeah, well, what about Iron Maiden? Iron Maiden never stopped selling out. Look at Guns N' Roses, still one of the biggest bands in the world. Look at Metallica. Look at Megadeth. So when you talk about some bands that don't draw like they used to, that's very, very true. But even Poison will still, play arenas and people will still go see their shows. And I still go see some of the bands that weren't that big. Faster Pussycat is still great to see.
Yeah.
So I don't think the scene died. Yes, it changed and people got into different styles. But if we were all, look at Motley Crue. Motley Crue changed their style every single album. Now they're glam. Now they're bikers. Now they're satanic metal. They kept on changing all the time.
Yeah.
But everybody did. If you were still dressed like you were in the 80s, and some people do, it would look kind of, being 50 or 60 years old with tight jeans tucked into cowboy boots looks kind of stupid, but I'm a 60-year-old guy with a mohawk, so who am I to talk?
Yeah, no, very true. Now, going back to the Cat House days. So when did that actually stop, the Cat House?
The Cat House closed, I believe it was 1993, maybe? I don't have the date down exactly. I could look it up because it was a very dark day for me. It was really, really depressing. I remember asking Lemmy if they would play the last night at the Cat House, and they did. And Motorhead's my favorite band.
Yep.
And they played the Cat House, and I didn't even walk inside. I didn't even watch them because I was like, wow, this is the club that got me everything. And now it's going to go away and nobody's going to remember the Cat House. I really didn't think it would be as legendary as it is. Well, that was a really tough day for me. And I closed it when people were still going. but it wasn't like we used to get lines around the block every single night with no bands playing. Then it became a club that people would only go like, who's playing at the Cat House? Oh, nobody. Oh, forget it. I'm not going to go. As opposed to before, people would just go every week.
Yep.
So before it got to the point of being empty, I decided to close it because I didn't want to see it, burn out.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Now, I know you spoke about Motorhead being a big fan. Now, did you ever like Hawkwind, the band Lemmy was in before that?
I got into Hawkwind. I mean, obviously, the song Silver Machine is my favorite Hawkwind song because Lemmy sang it.
Yeah.
I started listening to a little bit, and I think they were good because it was fun, but it just shows how long Lemmy's been in the game.
Oh, yeah.
That first Motorhead album to me is a punk rock album. I don't care. I mean, that song Vibrator, that's a punk rock album. The song Motorhead is punk rock to me. So to see Lemmy have gone through so much phases, but I did like Hawkwind, but I got into Hawkwind I was 4 years old when Hawkwind was out.
Yeah.
And that song Silver Machine, to me, it's such a you hear it once and it's stuck in your head. And if you watch the video is just hilarious. There's this dancing girl and it's very psychedelic and it's just a trip. But I like that song a lot.
Yeah. Now, I was in a Hawkwind cover band called Hawklords a while ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, got to learn all the stuff. It was
fun.
Hawkwind
was never big in America.
No, I mean,
Hawkwind never made it in America.
Yeah, they weren't really big here either, but it was just, the guy come up to me, this really huge Motorhead fan, said, hey, let's do this. So we did it, and it was good fun.
Thankfully, I've seen a lot of tribute bands, and thankfully, I've never seen a Motorhead tribute band. I've seen bands that sound like Motorhead, and that's okay, but I've never seen a Motorhead tribute band, and I don't think I want to.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of think about it, I don't think I have either. Even, I mean, in Australia, we've got heaps of cover bands, tribute bands, but yeah, never seen a Motorhead one.
I mean, I've seen AC/DC tribute bands that I recently saw one. They were called like Dirty Deeds. And I walked out there and there were maybe like 300 people watching them. And, the music's great. And they sounded pretty good. And I was thinking, wow, this is kind of like I'm seeing AC/DC in front of 300 people. So for that reason, I was kind of getting into it. But when I see, Motley Crue tribute bands, they're usually very comical. And a Guns N' Roses tribute band to me is just ridiculous because these are my friends and now there's tribute bands to them and nobody pulls it off. They look stupid usually. So, but there's bands like, the Iron Maidens, which is an all-girl Iron Maiden tribute band.
Yeah.
I've heard just nothing but the greatest things about them.
Oh, they're fantastic. They've been here a few times to Melbourne, and Courtney Cox. I've had her on the podcast as well. Yeah,
right.
She's great. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen them, but everybody says great things about them.
Yeah. Now, did you ever do any interviews or any stories or anything about Van Halen? Because that's one of my favorite bands. But
I did interview David Lee Roth. Well, actually, no. David Lee Roth used to hang out at my other club, Bordello, and he did hang out at the Cat House. And John Five ended up working with Bordello with David Lee Roth, and John Five met David Lee Roth at Bordello. But as far as the other Van Halen, I did regular MTV called Hanging with the MTV for the grand opening of Cabo Wabo. Okay. So I went to Mexico and I got to hang out with all the guys. They couldn't have been nicer. They were just such great guys. They were just, the music is different, but the way I look at the way the guys Van Halen were off stage is the same way I look at the way, Pantera was off stage. Yep. Vinny and Dime, they were just guys who would hang out with you and have a drink with you. And that's what it seemed like with the guys in Van Halen as well.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm a huge fan, but every interview I've seen, a lot of people say the same thing, what you just said. So that's great.
Yeah, but maybe we did, and I don't remember. I don't know, but there's been things that people said, did you remember this band? I said, I didn't interview them. And then they show, oh, watch this. I was like, oh. So there's some stuff, but.
Was it after the Cat House and everything? So you did the wrestling commentary as well, didn't you?
That's so funny because I've done 4 interviews today for Australia, and none of the interviews in America ever mention the wrestling.
Oh, really?
And Australia, they mentioned that, and to another interview talked about wrestling. I worked for WCW, which was like the competitor for WWE in the early 2000s,
Hmm.
and it was such a great job. But they didn't let me, like, I wanted to be a manager. I wanted to be like a jerk manager, which I think I would have been great at. But I was like just doing interviews and stuff like that. But I got to travel with wrestling and see everything behind the scenes, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So were you like a big wrestling fan growing up?
Still am.
Oh, you
Still
are.
am.
Okay.
Wrestling.
Yeah. So you must have known a fair bit about it then before you did the commentary.
A little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I think I probably know more about wrestling now
Okay.
because I'm just all in. I mean, back then I watched wrestling. I knew who some of the wrestlers were. And when I was younger, I had my favorite wrestlers. But then I knew quite a bit, but I think I probably know more now because I love watching wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Now, I'll just quickly go through dates again. So I'm going to put this podcast up there today on YouTube so people can check it out. So
Good.
next Friday, next Saturday, yeah, June 3rd at the Woodshed in Adelaide. So I'm sure you're going to have a ball there. And then the 4th of June at Brisbane, the Bright Side. Melbourne on the 9th, Stay Gold. And then Sydney, Saturday 10th at Factory Theatre.
Yes. The Adelaide show, I'm gonna be so damn nervous
Yeah.
because I don't know what to expect. I mean, in America, there's nothing like this show. This show has been getting really, really great reviews. And in Australia, because they didn't get Headbangers Ball, I don't know if some of the things are going to be more interesting to them, if they're going to laugh at the same things that people laugh at. I'm telling you straight out, I'm going to do something in the starting of the show that is so absolutely stupid, because if I get that out of the way, I know everything else is going to be better. So I'm going to do the worst thing possible at the very starting that nobody would ever guess. So when that's done, then I'm like, okay, I feel good now. Let's relax. Let's have a show, just to get the work part done right the second they see me.
That's good. Now make
Did
sure.
you guys ever get? Did you ever get the television show Ink Masters in Australia?
Yep.
Well, season 1, there was a competitor in season 1 that was a French girl named Leah Vendetta. And that's my wife, and she's coming with me as well. And so, so if you watched Ink Master and you saw season 1, Leah's going to be with me with all the shows as well. She introduces me on stage, and she'll be hanging out with me after the show with everybody as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, I was just going to say, so if you do come here and people try to ask you to taste Vegemite for the first time.
I've already had it.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
I was going to.
Most people don't know this, but when I was a bad kid as a teenager, so I got kicked out of my mom's house and had to go live with my dad. So because I was bad, they made me go live in New Zealand for a year.
Oh, that's right.
So I lived in New Zealand and I tried Vegemite there, and I'm going to try it again because I remember it tasted like rust. It wasn't like good, but I remember that it tasted so bad that I would eat it on a cracker, and I've got to go try Vegemite. I think I'll try Vegemite the first day I'm there. I know I have a layover for 10 hours at the Sydney airport. Maybe I'll have Vegemite in the Sydney airport.
Yeah, there you go. But just make sure you don't eat it in a spoon. Spread it on something.
Why? Because it tastes so bad?
It does. I mean, I love Vegemite, but I can never eat it by itself. And
is it good for you?
Oh, it's not bad for you.
If it tastes bad, why do people eat it?
I mean, it does have a nice taste, like you said, if you spread it on something. But a lot of Americans, when they come over, they get it in a spoonful. Like I did a show with Striper, I interviewed them, and they taste it in a spoon, like, they're throwing up. But you don't eat it like that. So just to warn you,
those guys in Striper, they're weak anyway. So what do you expect?
That's it. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much the main questions I had. But I really look forward. I'm going to be there in Melbourne.
Good.
Come say hello.
Definitely come say hello. I'm just excited about this whole thing. It's just, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I leave tomorrow and I'm still working on the script and editing the videos and trying to make it work. And because I'm only going with, when I go in America, I have a crew of, 3 other people. Yep. Because I'm going in Australia, I have to teach my wife how to do the videos, and we're going to just kind of figure it. I have no props. So it's really going to be a stripped down show. but I want people there to have fun, because if people like the show in Australia, it's going to be like the biggest, like I'm just going to be so stoked that I got to play in Australia and then people enjoyed the show.
Yeah, what an awesome way to do it too. Like doing what you're doing and coming here, just doing what you love, talking about what you love.
I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, no, excellent. Well, thank you very much again for your time. Yeah, I wish you all the best for your flight over.
Yes, 37 hours. But I'm looking forward to it, and I will see you in Melbourne.
Yes, definitely, 100%. I'll be
Okay.
there. All right, thanks.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome to the Become a Guitarist Today podcast.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.